Hi everyone, my name is Govinda and welcome to my channel. So today I'm gonna be going over my top 10 books according to GoodReads. Obviously, every time someone rates a book, GoodReads notes that down, but then it gives the book an average rating from all of those people. So what I'm gonna do today is go over my read books and see which ones are my top 10. So my number 10 book is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. So Chris Voss has on this one a 4.37 rating, which I'm not hugely surprised by. From what I've seen on the internet, it's quite a boy boss kind of book. I actually got this suggested to me, so I was going through a time at my current job actually where I was just talking about like future opportunities, pain, all those kind of boring things for me at least, and all those things that people sometimes have a hard time talking about. So I got suggested this by a family member. They were like, read this, it changed my life when it comes to negotiating and everything like that. So I actually had, prior to reading this book, a very, I don't know, low currency in myself when it came to my self-worth within my job role and just in general when it came to job roles. Reading this book totally changed that. Now, it might be both an action of reading this book was the catalyst for that, because it just put me in an environment where I was constantly reading about, you know, hold yourself in a high regard, whatever. And it also might be the teachings of this book were great. For me, I think it sits somewhere in the middle. I read this book and now I don't think I remember all the practices from this book, but after reading this I felt a lot more confident in myself, especially when it came to work, and I felt like I could hold my own more at work as well. So that was great. I gave it 4 stars, but I kind of do get for the culture, for the boy boss community, why it's so high up. Then my next one with a rating of 4.39 is Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Rennie Edo Lodge. So with this one, I really liked it. I really like what it taught me. I feel like as a person from the UK, you never really learn about UK modern day civil rights as much. And I really enjoyed this. I learned a lot of great things about a lot of great people. I actually gave that a 5 stars, so I must have loved it. I read this back in 2019, so I genuinely don't remember too much from it, I hate to say, but I really liked it. Actually, now that my memory's waking up about this, I read this in 2020. 2020 was one of my best reading years, and there was a lot of 5 stars in there, and this was like my top 3 from that year, so this must have been really good. Then my next book is another 2020 read. It's Black Flamingo by Dean Atta, which got a 4.39 rating and falls as number 8 on my list. I gave this book a 4 stars. I really liked it. It followed a lot of themes that I like as well. Like, you know, for me, if a book starts when literally the child is born and finishes when that child is 108 dying, that is like the best experience I could have. There's no death at the end, but I really feel like I grew with this character, so I really like this book as well. I would definitely recommend it also. So at number 7 is The Battle of the Labyrinth by Rick Riordan. It's a Percy Jackson book. I actually read it in 2020 as well, because I kind of joined the Percy Jackson like finishing this series but later than most people did. I read it when I was younger, the first one, didn't actually complete the book, and then picked up the series when I got into reading. I gave this a 2 stars, and but GoodReads gave this a 4.41. For me, some of the books in between the series are kind of boring. If I was a child when I read them or a teenager, I might have said different. It says 2019 here, actually it says 2020. I would have been 22, so 22 turning 23 is different than being preteen, do you know what I mean? Which is the kind of the target demographic, I guess, for this. So at number 6 is We Should All Be Feminists. I actually gave this a 5 stars, and Goodreads gave it a 4.42 stars, which I can't even imagine there's that many books on Goodreads that have a lot of ratings and stay consistently at 5. So this is a really, really good one. I read this early 2021 and I really loved it. I gave it a 5 stars, so evidently it was great. It's a really good read. I would, if I was now in a place where I'd pick this book up, I would think this book would be best to read almost as a palate cleanser, where it's a short book, it's good, it like is gonna be a great in between. So you could come off reading a bad book and you could have been in a reading slump and pick this up, read it in literally like maybe tops 20-30 minutes, and then move on with like a heightened sense of I've just read a 5 stars. Or you could keep that 5-star train going on, because I love this one. Great teachings in this, but I also loved the writing style. I felt like I just had such a great time. Also, I grew up on Beyonce, so I heard the lyrics whilst I was reading them, which was great. So at number 5 with a 4.44 stars is Game of Thrones, the first book. I read this in 2 parts. I read like the first couple of chapters at uni. I actually have this really good memory. I used to listen to audiobooks to make me go to sleep. Now I just watch YouTube videos. What would happen with me when I used to do that, sometimes I'd forget to put the sleep timer on, and then when I woke up in the morning, the book was read. I couldn't remember where I left it, and it was quite problematic. So I stopped doing that. But when I actually did do it with this, I had a lucid dream because I was reading the bit where Bran like falls out the tower. Spoiler alert. I mean, who hasn't read or watched Game of Thrones by now? But I was watching that part, and literally I would lucid dreaming it as well, and he just describes it in such a poetic way that it was beautiful. It wasn't scary, it was like majestic. I gave this a 5 stars because when I picked it up I read it in a week and it was good. It was really good. I have contemplated going back and reading the whole series, but I'm just not in a place where I'd want to do that right now, so I haven't. So the next book is another 5 stars, and it's number 4, I think. Yeah, number 4, and that is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So just to preface, Taylor Jenkins Reid is one of my favourite authors. Now, for me, I use the books in Lala metric, where you need to have read and rated 3 books by the author 5 stars for it to be that. I've only actually read 2 books by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This and Daisy Jones and the Six is actually my second book. I don't think Daisy Jones and the Six is on here, which is crazy because I love that book. But I also love this book. So I actually read this first and I gave it a 4 stars, and I read it again and I gave it 5 stars. For me, the ending's always like a weird bit for me. I don't know, sometimes it's kind of anticlimactic, but it also doesn't feel good either, so maybe that's why I give it that. But yeah, I enjoyed this book and the sentiment of it. I really wanted it to become a movie. So yeah, I gave that 5 stars. Goodreads gave that 4.47 stars. Okay, this next book for a very, very long time was my favourite book ever, and that's The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas, which is a 4.5 stars on Goodreads. But I gave it a 5 stars, and I actually read this in 2019. So 2019, I was reading quite a bit. I lived in London and I used to commute regularly, like just to anywhere, like the gym. I used to go to the gym back then, but also like uni and like the shops and like supermarket, whatever. I read this. I literally remember like the exact month that I read this and everything like that, because I would read it on my commute, and I genuinely love this book. It's a great book. If you haven't read it, read it. I just love Angie Thomas and I think she's great, so yeah, I understand that. Now, in second place, hear me out. I give this a 3 stars. It's a 4.53 on Goodreads. It's The Last Olympian by Rick Riordan. We touched on this before in this exact video. I shouldn't have read it when I read it, because I just don't think I appreciate the series like I would have done. Also, I'm guessing that a lot of times when people go on GoodReads, they log. I know people who've done this. They create the account, they log like 5 books that they've read, never go on GoodReads again. So I'm guessing that's happened here. This book and this series is a popular series, but at the time, if I read it when I was younger, I would have, like, this is probably my favourite book, but I read it when I was in this year, when I was 24, so the magic might have been lost. So, okay, at number 1, it's actually 4 books from the same author and in the same series, so that's why I lumped them together. And that series is the Heartstopper series by Alice Oseman. So listen. So, I have given each of these books 5 stars. I loved them. I don't know how I felt about the TV show on Netflix. I kind of found it like alright, but I really, really loved the series, and I love Alice Oseman. One of these books, I can't remember which one, is one of the only books that I've cried to. I think I've only cried to 2 books, and this is one of them. So, love it. Love it. Love it. The fact that I read all 4 of them is great. I just love them, so that makes sense. So that's my top 10 most popular books on GoodReads. I would do this if I was you, because it's quite insightful to see how your opinion and other people's opinions, like the general public of GoodReads opinions, match up. So definitely try this out. I am shocked that Daisy Jones and the Six isn't on here. Another popular book that I would expect to see on here is I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings by Maya Angelou, because I think it would be a popular book that people have read, so people would log it on here, if that makes sense. Throne of Glass, I did not like it. I gave it 2 stars, but because it's so popular, I thought that it would have more ratings and high-end ratings, so put it on the top. Handmaid's Tale, I loved that. That's my favourite book this year so far. I gave it 5 stars. GoodReads says 4.13. With that, I think a lot of literature students do that, so maybe more critical readers are studying it. So maybe that's why. Gone Girl, I gave it 4 stars. GoodReads says 4.11. But I thought it would have been higher. But yeah, I think that's everything. A Hunger Games book isn't in the top 10, which is surprising, because you would have thought it would be more popular when people are younger, back in like 2015 or 2012, they would have rated it higher, so that's quite surprising as well. I guess my top 10 does show that GoodReads love a good self-help book, so that's quite insightful as well. But anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. As always, please do like, comment and subscribe, but for now, bye.